humbled and grateful to the millions and millions of Californians that exercised their fundamental right to vote and express themselves so overwhelmingly by rejecting the division, by rejecting the cynicism, by rejecting so much of the negativity that's defined our politics in this country over the course of so many years.
Gavin Newsom will remain the governor of California after defeating a recall effort in a landslide victory. Good evening and welcome to the 10 o'clock news on election night. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. Jesse Pagan will be joining us in a few moments with live election coverage. The race was called in Newsom's favor a little over an hour ago.
In fact, it was called less than 45 minutes after the polls closed, with Newsom the clear winner. These are a look at the latest numbers right here. Rejecting the recall, voting no, 66%. Voting yes, 34%.
Here's the numbers. The potential replacement candidates, Larry Elder led by a large margin, but Kevin Faulconer, former San Diego mayor, couldn't even top 10% in this election. And tonight we are going to have team coverage. We're going to have team coverage all night long from across the state. Jesse Pagan is at the Yes on Recall GOP watch party in Escondido. LaMonica Peters at Liberty Station with more on former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer's campaign.
Richard Allen is live at the Registrar of Voters office in Kearny Mesa with a look at the vote count. But we begin tonight with political reporter Morgan Reiner. She's at the state DNC headquarters in Sacramento.
Yeah, Governor Newsom spoke a little bit earlier, just after the race was officially called.
Carlo, Marcella, Newsom walked into this building behind me determined to put this recall behind him. While he said that voters overwhelmingly voted no, he said that this was also a message of voters saying yes. Yes to the vaccine, yes to mandates, yes to science, yes to women's rights, yes to, and he went on and on and on about what voters said yes to. He said that this was not just about California, but that it had national repercussions. Take a look.
I'm humbled and grateful to the millions and millions of Californians that exercised their fundamental right to vote and express themselves so overwhelmingly by rejecting the division, by rejecting the cynicism, by rejecting so much of the negativity that's defined our politics in this country over the course of so many years.
Newsom also called out former President Donald Trump, who called this election rigged, saying that you can't throw around democracy like it's a football. You have to treat it like it's a fragile vase, he said. He called out Trumpism for being still very much so alive in this country. And speaking of, Newsom, up until tonight, has been calling out Larry Elder as the closest thing he's seen to a Donald Trump. But tonight in this speech, he didn't mention Larry Elder's name once. He wants to put the conservative talk show host behind him in the rearview mirror. But just yesterday when I spoke to Larry Elder, he did tell me he does not plan on leaving the political stage anytime soon.
Morgan, for the time being, a resounding victory for Governor Gavin Newsom. So what's next for him? What is he doing tomorrow just after this victory?
Getting back to work. He spoke a lot about not just getting back to work, but getting back to respect and humanity. Now, an expert, a political analyst I spoke to, said it's still too soon to turn around and start campaigning for the gubernatorial election in 2022. That's right around the corner. He said that both the media and voters at this point are too burnt out. But of course, that is right around the corner. He said what you can expect from this point moving forward is a lot of discussion around reforming this recall. We know from recent Berkeley polls that while the majority of Californians agree there should be a recall process, it also shows that a majority of people want it to be reformed in some way. Again, I mentioned it a few days ago, but Governor Gavin Newsom's campaign believes that one of the reasons they are here tonight is because it is as easy as being a ham sandwich to qualify.
Very low threshold to make a recall happen, and we saw that that effort wasn't that popular, it turns out. All right, Morgan Reiner, our political reporter, reporting live from Sacramento. You get some rest, or actually we'll see you one more time, I believe, tonight, but good job out there tonight. In the meantime, Tonight, the GOP Yes on Recall Watch party is taking place in Escondido right now.
News 8's Jesse Pagan has been with the campaign all night, where the group was holding on to hope that their efforts would unseat Governor Gavin Newsom. Jesse, probably the crowd's cleared out by now.
Marcella, you said it right there. As you can see right now, this group right here is clearing out and cleaning up, setting this salon here back to what it was. At one point, roughly 90 to 100 people were crowding in this room, anxiously looking at those numbers start to trickle in. Of course, the vast majority of them wanted to see Governor Gavin Newsom out of office. As the night started to go down, the crowd started to trickle in, built up again to that close to 90 to 100 people, and then thinned out to what you see here. We talked with a few of the people that were starting to come in at that point. Some of them, of course, coming here, showing their support for that recall, saying they wanted Governor Gavin Newsom out of office, replaced by one of the several candidates that were on that ballot poised to take the governor's office if they had the chance. However, we did talk to one attendee here who said that despite wanting to see the recall go through, wanting to see Governor Gavin Newsom out of office, he actually more so wanted to see people exercise their right to vote.
Well, I don't expect them to get recalled tonight. My hope is that the Republicans will continue to put up candidates, get better candidates, be more inclusive, bring in more minorities, more women. I was really pleasantly surprised how well women did in the 2020 presidential election, the nationwide election.
Now, as the night started to progress out here, the organizers here started to explain a little bit of what the numbers coming in were, how they were looking, of course, holding on to that hope. Carl DeMaio, the main organizer here and one of the chairmen for this grassroots campaign here, says that they're holding out hope to see what the final tally decides to show when all those ballots are counted from across the entire state. However, he does say that whichever way that tally ends up going, he does believe the message from this grassroots campaign right here in Escondido is being screamed loud and clear to Sacramento.
If he prevails, and we don't know if he will, we still believe we're going to pick up numbers, and this is going to be a lot closer than anyone imagined. But if he prevails, will he learn his lesson? I don't think so. I think that Californians will have to, again, send a message in the next election. And what form that takes, we'll see.
Now, as Carlo and Marcella, as you've said, several news outlets, including the Associated Press and ourselves here at News 8, have called the race for Governor Gavin Newsom at this point. However, people here, of course, still holding on. They want to see that final tally and all the votes counted. Carlo, Marcella?
Remaining optimistic, Jesse. This Yes on Recall campaign is part of a larger Reform California grassroots group. What is next for them?
Well, Marcella, they've already told me that, again, whichever way that this goes for them, they will be mobilizing already for 2022 to get their candidates and whatever the issues that they want up front on the ballot, right where they need to be for people to vote on.
All right, Jesse Pagan live at the headquarters where the Yes to Recall Governor Gavin Newsom, that campaign party has ended tonight. Thanks so much. Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer was among the dozens of candidates vying for Governor Newsom's job.
But the vote didn't go quite as he had hoped. News 8's LaMonica Peters is live at Faulconer's campaign watch party in Liberty Station with how things are looking there. I imagine it's pretty subdued, LaMonica.
Yeah, it is subdued, and most of the people have already gone home, but there were a couple dozen people here showing their support for Faulconer's campaign. Now, as you mentioned, he is San Diego's former mayor, and he says he ran this race based on his record here. He talked about how he tackled issues of homelessness. He talked about giving an increase in funding to the police when people were asking to defund the police. So I want you to take a listen to what he had to say to his supporters as the numbers started to come in.
This recall has been quite an endeavor, been a phenomenal opportunity. But I also know very clear, and those of you that know me, I'm not one that's part of a circus. I'm the guy that comes in to end the circus. And that's what I've done as mayor. That's what I always did. And what I was known for as mayor of San Diego when we came in at a very difficult time during our city's history. It's a very difficult time for our state's history.
Faulconer didn't take any questions from the media, and without going into a lot of detail, he says he's not finished serving the people of California.
Thanks, LaMonica. Okay, even though the election has already been called, there are plenty of votes to be counted and still plenty of activity at the Registrar of Voters.
Staffers have a lot of work ahead of them and will be there into the early morning hours tabulating ballots from more than 220 locations around the county. News 8's Richard Allen is live at the Registrar's office in Kearney Mesa with more on the hustle to get those votes counted. Richard?
Well, Carlo and Marcella, that's right. Even though the election has been called, the votes counted here tonight and those that remain to be counted give us a clearer picture of what San Diego voters have to say about Governor Newsom and about the recall election itself. Now, you'll remember leading up to today, statewide polls had given Governor Newsom a clear advantage, up to 20% more in some polls, and those counts have more than borne out. Here in San Diego County, he received over 60%, with the yes campaign receiving less than 40%. That's so far. The margin is even wider statewide. Now, the Registrar of Voters here has so far tabulated those mail-in ballots submitted before today, as well as walk-in voting, in-person voting from Saturday through Monday. But those mail-in ballots cast, or those in-person ballots cast today and mail-in ballots sent out late, have yet to make it to the overall count. The political analysts we've spoken with say they expected the first ballot drop, primarily those mail-in ballots, would be more heavily Democratic. After that, it was anticipated that more Republicans would choose to vote in person on Election Day. And then, of course, after that, there's the after count. Interim Registrar of Voters Cynthia Paz tells us that patience is necessary as more ballots continue to pour in.
Today, we could have anywhere from 150,000 to 200,000 mail ballots dropped at polling locations as well as mail ballot drop-off locations. Timely cast ballots are postmarked on or before Election Day and received up to 7 days after Election Day through the U.S. Postal Service.
And of course, each and every one of those ballots will be tabulated in the days and weeks to come. The interim Registrar of Voters also tells us she expects that voter turnout here in San Diego to be up to 70%, which is quite high for an off-season special election. Keep in mind, though, that in 2003, during the recall election then, voter turnout statewide was 61%, and here in San Diego County, it was actually more than 66%.
Richard,
Marcella?
Richard, the early numbers are pretty overwhelming, but how long is it going to be before we get an official final count of all the ballots?
Well, it's going to take a little while. Every Registrar of Voters in every county throughout California has a full 30 days to finalize their ballots and certify their count, and then they send it on to the Secretary of State's office up in Sacramento. So that means we won't get the official final count until October 14th.
All right, Richard Allen from the Registrar of Voters office in San Diego reporting live. Thanks, Richard.